Regular board meeting of the Stow Munroe Falls City School District on Monday, August 3rd, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mrs. Video?
Here.
Mrs. Matthews?
Here.
Mrs. Powers?
Here.
Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, before we have the comments from the audience, and before we move into that, I would just like to remind everyone in attendance of the procedures for this part of the meeting. This is a time of the board meeting when citizens have an opportunity to bring comments or concerns before the board. When you address the board, please state your name and address and identify the organization you represent, if any. Comments should be directed to the board as a whole and not to any one individual. Please refrain from any personal attacks or inappropriate language during your comments. Please also note that this is at this time where we, as board members, simply listen to your comments, so please do not be upset when there is not a response from board members. Each person is limited to 3 minutes for their comments. The board will enforce the 3-minute time limit out of respect for the other speakers and the people in attendance at tonight's meeting. Thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for allowing us to speak at the 24th meeting of the year. I have some questions, and I realize with a 3-minute limitation, I don't expect an answer from you. I think the answers are probably pretty obvious. There's 5 of them, and then I have some comments and some action items. First, will the changing of the new law firm to the new law firm of Hannah Campbell Powell with attorney Brian Borla delay the proceedings against Mrs. Bulgren? And with respect to that, will the new law firm require additional time to come up to speed on the board's complaints against the treasurer, Mrs. Bulgren? And will using the new firm add additional costs to the district's legal fees, added expenses to come up to speed on the board's complaints against the treasurer, Mrs. Bulgren? And number 4 is a 2-part question. In the interest of transparency, Mr. Markling's resignation from the Bulgren fiasco appears to be a no-confidence statement about the likelihood he will lose in defending the board's unsubstantiated allegations against Mrs. Bulgren. What led to their decision to resign, and when was that decision made? Number 5, has Mr. Markling been asked to return any portion of the fees delegated to the Bulgren case, specifically the check for $170-some thousand given to him on June the 23rd? Again, my comment regarding this, I think the path chosen by the board this year is a bad omen for what's on the horizon, but it even gets worse. Within the next few days, 4 board members and the board's attorney, Matthew Markling, will receive notice they are personally being sued, leaving the district with 4 out of 5 board members involved personally in litigation and hindering its ability to serve the community. The immediate action that I would like to see, the resignations of 4 board members. You can guess which 4 you are. The only excluded one is the one on my immediate right. Termination of the district's contract with Matthew Markling and a refund of all payments not associated with current billable time. Immediate support for the remaining board member in selecting new board members pro tempore. And the immediate disclosure, unrelated to this specifically, but immediate disclosure of all previously requested information related to allegations made public last winter related to a district official and a central office staff involved in possible inappropriate behavior, harassment, bullying, and hostile work environment. I thank you very much. Again, I'd love to have an answer to the first 5 questions, and I certainly would love to have your resignations.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Any other comments from the audience? All right. At this time, let's move on to the recognition. Mr. Brandt.
First, you didn't receive this because it was a late edition today. I found out some sad news that I have to report. Haley Hopkins, a 2012 graduate of Stow Munroe Falls High School, soccer player, lacrosse, and a percussionist in the band, sadly passed away in a car accident on Friday, July 31st. Haley's parents are Danielle Schley of Munroe Falls and Hubert Hopkins of Stow. Haley's brother, Scott Hopkins, is a junior at the high school. Scott is currently at band camp for the next few days, surrounded by his friends and his band family. I just ask that the people in the audience and the district and the board, obviously, join me in keeping the family in their thoughts and prayers going forward through what must be just an awful, awful time right now. Information I do have are calling hours will be Wednesday, this Wednesday, 12 to 2 and 5 to 7 at Bellow Falls Chapel, 1907 23rd Street, Cuyahoga Falls, with the funeral services being Thursday, August 6th at 11 a.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Cuyahoga Falls. Okay, so thought this was timely as we found this out today to express our condolences to the family. Now, shifting gears a little bit for some exciting news. At this time, I would like to bring up Kathy Romito and Joanna Tano from Western Reserve Hospital and present them with a plaque for their generous donations that they provided to the school district this year to all the buildings. You know, the Western Reserve Hospital approached us this year and said, how can we help? And I said, I'm not sure, I just got here, but thanks for asking. And we went around to the principals, and the principals came up with a wish list, and I'll be darned if they didn't fulfill almost everything on the wish list. And you know, that is just amazing for our kids and our staff and our buildings. And at this time, I would like to just bring them up and give them a small thank you and gratitude for our appreciation. The plaque says Western Reserve Hospital with sincere appreciation for your dedications to Stow Munroe Falls City School District as a community partner 2015. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
With the awards, and they were, the kids were.
While you go to the consent agenda, I'm going to step out and take a picture with these guys.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And at this time, we have the consent agenda. And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion, please. All right. One thing I did want to, and I saw something on the eco count, and I inquired about that, and there's several school districts doing that, and I guess this will help out quite a bit. Gas mileage, diesel fuel mileage, and that it's really a move now to, and especially when I'm hearing about it's going to help our green footprint. And when I'm here, just read in the paper today about more restrictions coming on in emissions, tougher than ever before. So, okay. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Mrs. Bedio?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Osborne, would you like to move into your treasurer's recommendations?
Okay, you have two items. Both of them deal with the large projects that we are undertaking or already have started. First item, 20415, has to do with, primarily it's the Windows project that's taking place. And I'm recommending that you approve the 15 or so page resolution that we have here that was prepared by Squires, Patton, and Boggs. issue the bonds, and I just found out today the funding of the projects will probably take place on August 18th, the day after our next meeting, so we'll have that money in hand.
Great.
No.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bedio?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
And Mr. Armstrong.
Aye.
The second item I have is also dealing with a large project that's quite a bit more extensive, but this is the one under the provisions of House Bill 264. It's probably 3 times or so the size of the project just approved the issuance of the bonds, but these are the ones that go through the state of Ohio and their approving agency, and the wording is pretty much the same, except this one is House Bill 264, and that has to do with the guarantee of savings. So I would recommend that we approve this resolution too, and again, funding in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So moved.
Second? Discussion?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Osborne and Mr. Bratton and Mark, Mr. Fritz, for their efforts in this. We're between a rock and a hard place. Our schools are in need of various and severe takings. And I don't like borrowing money. I hate borrowing money. I hate the interest. I hate the whole thing. But I also don't want our children going to schools that are not adequately prepared for them. So thank you. And poor Mr. Osborne, I had him on the phone today asking him, okay, how much interest? What are those lawyers going to get? And trying, because I like the bottom line. I like to know exactly what we're spending, but thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you also. It's a great job both of you did, and Mr. Mark, Mr. Fritz also putting that together real quick. That was a very quick that you put that together. All right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Mrs. Bedio?
Aye.
Third item, I said 2, there's 3. Standard, a new class, new year beginning, so I'm recommending that you approve the account for the high school class of 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong?
Aye.
Mrs. Bedio?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
That's it, thank you.
All right, this time we move to the superintendent's recommendations. Mr. Bratton?
At this time, I would like to bring up Mrs. Julia Breza to the podium to do a short presentation on the gifted program plan. This is the district's plan and parent guide for identification and service for children who are labeled as gifted. And Mrs. Breza.
Hello.
Hi. You don't have a picture.
I know, I just gonna stand over here. We're required to prepare and make available a program or a handbook such as what was shared with you earlier. With the direction of our gifted coordinator, Rebecca Fredmonsky, who's here, keeping that away, we were able to update what was a very overdue change to our document and overall just our gifted programming in general. Historically in the district, we do a really good job of qualifying students for gifted services, not so great in serving them. So we are making huge strides in the right direction on how we can better serve our gifted learners. I included for you also just some background information about what who is considered a gifted student, what ODE's requirements are for servicing them, and then also some notes from a really great presentation that Mrs. Fredmonsky shared with the parents of incoming 4th through 6th graders who will be experiencing the biggest change in what their classroom programming will be for next school year. So some of that can give you a little bit of insight into why some of these changes are taking place. We do not have testing data to share with you at this point in time because of all the testing hoopla that you've all been aware of. So we don't have any kind of statistics to show you how well we've done on our value added indicator, which historically for us also has been not so great. But we know confidently moving forward that we are offering a stronger program that is more comparable to districts that we want to be compared to. And we believe that we're doing what's best for our students overall. Questions on any of those things?
What I noticed, I read through the 27-page,
30.
30, but yeah.
30.
And that was without, what I liked about it was that we're codifying a process now. Okay, that I don't think we had before, and exactly on how these kids will be tested and what the cutoff is and that going forward now. And I know that our value added has not been up there. This is a contributor to that. And I'm really glad to see us starting to move forward on that.
Correct. Yes, we have done a really good job of qualifying those students for services and then not serving them. So with Mrs. Fred Monsky's assistance and her coordination, also as an aside, we were able to move her from a half-time coordinator this current school year to a full-time coordinator next school year without having to add any additional FTEs because she is serving our K-12 program. So we're going to be able to better focus on our 7th through 12th graders, which we have not been able to do in the past. Students who are currently taking AP courses, for example, who are identified as gifted, we can be getting credit per se from the state for serving those kids, and we've not been able to do that before.
That's great.
How many students were identified last year? Roughly, any idea?
You mean for this coming into the school year? We have 40, well, identified, I know how many we're able to serve.
Okay.
We have 40 students in 4th grade that we'll be serving. 20 in 5th grade.
Just roughly.
We're serving next year 40 students in 4th, 5th, and 6th grades.
Each grade level.
Each grade level.
Okay.
We're servicing that many students. There are probably between 5 to 15 in each of those grade levels that have an identification but didn't meet the specific requirements for the changes that are happening. So we'll be working with their classroom teachers in order to provide a type of service for them. Our incoming 4th graders who are newly receiving services, in addition to those 40 who have qualified, there's probably an additional 15 that have been identified. And then within each grade level, there's a handful that get retested throughout the year and do qualify for identification as well.
Excuse me, but once they're tested and they're proven to be so-called gifted, and you start at the elementary level, do you test them as they progress up to make sure that they're still in that program? Or once they're tested, they stay into it?
Do you want to answer that? We're required to test them initially with one of the tests available and approved by ODE. We choose to do that here in 2nd, then in 3rd grade. What we have in the past. Moving forward, we're going to start that testing in 3rd grade because it doesn't make sense to test the students when we're not yet going to serve them. So we're looking at moving back our testing dates. So we initially test in 3rd grade, and then I believe the next time is 5th grade?
We haven't in quite a number of years retested, but the state is looking at putting requirements in place that would ask districts to retest between grades 5 and 7. And we're going to be looking to do that as well so that we can catch some of the students that we may be missing by having them not be identified in 3rd grade.
So once they're tested at this level, then if they go to the middle school and the high school, they're just accepted? They're not tested again?
Correct. In Ohio, once you're identified as gifted, you always have that identification. So even if they were to take an assessment and did not reach those numbers again, they still have that identification. We can't ever take that away from them. But we can look at different ways we can be servicing those students as they move through our educational program.
For example, although we have 40 students in a homeroom with a gifted certified teacher, we still have the 15 that she was referring to that we identified in some way, shape, or form, whether it be math or English language arts. We can still serve them, we can cluster them in a classroom, and they are taught by their regular homeroom teacher, although we have to provide them highly qualified professional development. and we will do that. We always do that anyway here in our district. So we will do that, and we're able to still serve those students that are clustered, but not still in that homeroom.
That was gonna be my question, Joey. I know in the past, we did have a gifted teacher in, I think, every elementary school, which I don't think we do anymore. And so you said they were clustered in a classroom. Do they meet once a day? Are they still going out into the other, are they mixing? No, they're just,
Our students that are in a what we're calling a self-contained gifted program, a gifted classroom, they have the same instruction all day from the same teacher who meets Ohio's criteria for being a gifted teacher. The students that are clustered grouped, it's the same situation. They still have the regular homeroom teacher, but we are being held accountable for making sure that that homeroom teacher has the high-quality professional development that they're expected to have.
is this new? Is this the way it's been? Would they have been in a classroom, contain all of the gifted children in one classroom?
It is new for our district starting next school year.
Okay, is there information out there that proves that this is a good plan? And the fact that they're not mixed in, what's it do to the other children?
Sure.
Because the gifted children usually would be the ones that motivate in a classroom with questions and whatever. So then what happens to our other students?
All valid concerns and all ones that we have answered and that Mrs. Fredmonsky has answered repeatedly, both from parents, students, teachers especially. Teachers
Yeah.
are most concerned. There's a great deal of research that supports this model for students, for the gifted learner in particular. But just like students on the other end of maybe that spectrum, the students that receive special services for perhaps a learning disability, we want to look at what their least restrictive environment is. So this self-contained gifted classroom may not be for all students, but for a lot of them, this is going to meet their needs if they fit the criteria of a gifted learner.
Thank you. Good luck.
We have a lot of research if you care to ever,
Oh, I'm sure you
see
did,
any of
Joy,
it.
I'm sure.
But then also to remember, we had a committee that really, this was their focus all this year, 15 people that met on a continuum, including teachers, administrators. We had parent representation that really looked at what was the best model for our district compared to what other districts do and what we have available to us as resources.
How many years do you think it'll take to evaluate that as to being effective, like maybe 2, 3?
I would like to say 3, just to err on the side of caution. That's usually what we look at as a fair enough span.
Different from the old Oasis where they only went half a day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
These teachers are their teachers of record now. We are holding them accountable to that professional development that they have to have.
Yeah, and that's more the 4th and 5th grade. I mean, the 5th and 6th grade level, I think, is dedicated.
Oasis used to serve 4th through 6th grade.
Yeah.
This is replacing Oasis. We're not calling it Oasis anymore, but it has,
Right.
it's
right.
what has
No problem.
replaced it.
Yeah, from the old days.
Yeah. Anything else?
Right, thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Grant.
Well, yeah, because new business, I really want to, because I know he wanted to talk about that. You already did. Oh, he did when I was up there? Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that, go ahead. You're fine, go ahead.
Okay, do I have the motion to approve the Mr. Grant, the superintendent's recommendation?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? I think we have quite a bit. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong.
Aye.
Mrs. Bedio.
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, we had no old business on the agenda, and I did not see any new business on the agenda. Is there, I wasn't aware of any need for a possible executive session. All right, then move on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bedio.
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. And thank you.
No.